Welcome to Reverent and Rebellious, a safe space for faith-based conversations on the things that nobody seems to want to talk about these days. We are reverent, we value truth, we elevate scripture, but we are also rebellious. We shatter myths and we destroy dogma, so jump in. Join us, Logan, Pat, and me, the brother Peter, as we get reverent and we get rebellious.
What's up, everyone?
What's up?
We're coming to you probably as our Armageddon Blizzard hits, or has hit, or is hitting.
Yeah. By the time you see this, it'll be a winter wonderland.
Yeah.
You might be playing. You might be listening to this while you're playing in the snow.
That's right.
Or while you're eating your milk and bread.
Yeah. Or you might be at the Eiffel Tower.
Logan, why don't you tell us about that? Well, you know what? First, let me.
All right. Well, hold on. Before you read those, you need to join the mix, guys. Hit that like button. Hit subscribe, and leave us a comment on YouTube. Leave us a rating and a review on our Apple and Spotify and all that. Leave us rating and reviews there. But comment, guys. We want to hear from you, and I think we had quite a few. We had some at my expense.
We did, and I'm skipping around because I'm jumping right to your wife first. Marcy says, let the record show that Logan has never been to the Eiffel Tower. We have been to the Empire State Building.
All right. So
they're kind of the same, right?
So, like, the day you posted this episode, she had to go to Memphis for something. And I get a call. I'm like at the house doing something, and I get a call from her, and she is just tripping out. And she goes, "You doofus!" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You have never been to the Eiffel Tower." And I was like, "I know I've never been to the Eiffel Tower." And she goes, "You just said you went to the Eiffel Tower like multiple times on the podcast." And I said, "I'm talking about the Empire State Building." She goes, "But you said the Eiffel Tower." And I was like, "Oh, crap." So I said, well, she goes, "I thought about commenting." I said, "Will you comment so that I'll be sure and remember?" So for those wondering, I have not been to the Eiffel Tower. Somehow I had that, and I had Empire State Building on my mind, which I have been to, because I even described the double elevators that you do ride in the Empire State Building.
We've never been to the Eiffel Tower, so
y'all were just like, y'all were just going along.
Yeah, like I've been by it, I've never been in it, so I was like, sure.
You're like, it's got
two elevators. Yeah,
I bought
sounds good to me.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, well, Pat and Peter didn't push back. It must have been really believable on
we
that.
bought it.
Yeah.
But Marcy was not fooled.
She was not
somebody
fooled.
out there saying, "I've been to the Eiffel Tower. There is not two elevators."
Yeah, somebody. Who was the guy that said we didn't know what we were talking about?
That was
Your name is my last name.
I am or something.
Something like that.
Invisible Man in Black.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't comment and be like, "There is not two elevators in the Eiffel Tower."
Do your stuff better, sir.
Yeah,
he would say, a lot of what you just said is awfully wrong.
Yes.
Or paraphrasing.
So yeah, for the record, not been to the Eiffel Tower. I actually never been outside the U.S.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Nope.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
I
Not
have
even
not.
to Mexico?
I've never even been to Mexico.
Wow.
Nope. I have.
Canada?
Nope.
I want to go to Canada.
Canada's about to join the United States. So
That's it's going to be the 51st state.
Yeah. And the Gulf of Mexico is about to be the Gulf of America.
How many? Yeah, I saw that. How many electoral votes would Canada get?
Well, it's only like 25 people in the whole country of Canada, so not very many.
We can ask my cousin, Kevin.
That's right.
Yeah, let's ask Kevin.
Yeah.
You need to comment back.
All right, so Amber says, yes, Logan, we have been to the moon.
That's debatable, Amber.
Rhonda says, great year in review, gents. And then Amber says, love y'all. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas is also my favorite. We were talking about what happens when we die, and Rhonda said, oh my gosh, Pat, glad bag. Because I said, just throw me in a glad bag. Aunt Ruby says, I don't make New Year's resolutions anymore. I hope for the best. I'm optimistic for 2025, but there's so much craziness in the world, nothing will surprise me.
That's very true.
We're right there with you.
Yep.
Then Rhonda says, Drone Watch 2025, seen it here. We watched it first.
That's it.
Yep.
And then our new friend, Jonathan Z, 9675, says, Jesus the Rebel by Pharisee standards. Protestants are rebels by Catholic standards. And the 13 colony is rebels by British standards. Your title does your ancestors proud.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan Z.
Yeah, and then he said our intro is super cheesy, though.
Well, Matt Miller would resent that statement.
Yes, exactly. You made it.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate the comments. And Amber, if my wife, she's off. So Sunday, you need to go up to her at church and ask her if we've been to the moon. And I want to hear, I'd like to hear, because she actually is probably more of a moon landing denier than I am.
Wow.
I've been to the moon.
Which is funny because I'm like way more of a conspiracy guy than my wife. But that's one, she's like, I don't think we've been to the moon.
I just like the fact she called you a doofus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good one for what she called me. Doofus or a dodo. I get one of those two.
That's better than some things she could
I was
call you.
going to say that's a pretty tame name
I
for
was
it.
going to say, that's I will take that any day of the week.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So guys, y'all comment. We want y'all to leave us some great comments on this episode.
Give
And-
these doofuses some thumbs up.
Yes, and I mean, Peter's going to have to drop his joke for a second, but I'm telling you, this episode, I think this is the mother of all cults.
We saved this kind of for the last. This is going to cap off our little cult mini
This
series.
is our cult hurrah.
I'll give you the teaser is kind of what I'm drinking actually tonight.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking some, if y'all can see the can, I'm drinking Liquid Death.
Liquid Death.
Yeah.
Liquid Death, if you're watching, we will appreciate your sponsor. Thank you.
We would. So, yeah, that's your teaser for the show. Some people, which, I mean, they're going to see the title. of the
They'll see
episode.
the title.
Yeah, they'll know.
But there you go. So,
what is ET short for?
Extraterrestrial.
No, he's got little legs.
I bit right into that.
you did.
So what does ET stand for?
I don't know.
The Alien National Anthem.
Okay. Well, there you go. He does stand for something.
Yes.
Okay. Well done. Well done.
So there you go. Little ET humor for you.
Stacy would appreciate that. She's terrified of ET.
Well, there you
Really?
go.
She is.
Yeah. He's got little legs.
Yeah, anything with aliens, Stacy's out on.
Even E.T.?
Especially ET.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right.
Traumatic childhood.
So, in case you haven't got it by now, we are going to talk about the granddaddy of all cults. We don't even have to ask the question at any point in this episode, is this a cult?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Without a doubt.
We're going to preface this episode with, let's talk about this cult.
Yes. If you are convinced to kill yourself by the quote, air quote, religion that you are following, then you are in a cult, my friend. And unfortunately, it's too late when you find out.
Well, if you're in a cult, you're probably not allowed to watch stuff like this.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
We'll pray for you.
Yes. Yeah.
This is about something called the People's Temple.
The People's Temple.
Yes.
Is that like the people's elbow?
Yes.
What The Rock used to do in wrestling? He would take
Yeah.
his pad off and
Yeah, it's very similar. That was random.
His name does sound like a wrestler, though.
he kind of does have a wrestler's name.
to the ring now, Jim Jones.
And he had like the kind of look like he kind of had a wrestler look.
He did.
He kind of had like a Elvis kind of vibe about him, sort of the way he looked.
A little bit.
Very much so, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
He probably
I see it.
thought he was, he did think he was the man. So, yeah.
Okay, so where do you think he was born?
Indiana.
Yep, Indianapolis.
Okay. I was going to say he's got to be like a Cali dude.
No, he ended up in California.
Yeah.
But it all started in Indiana.
I started looking at this, too, and I'm starting to believe that most cults form in the Midwest.
I'm telling you what.
It's because it's boring. There's nothing to do.
Maybe so. Maybe so. All of our Midwest listeners, tell us about it.
Yeah, tell us
Why?
Why is it so cultish there?
Look, and I only say the boring comment because when we went to Indiana for the seed thing, it was snowing. And the dude was like, one of the farmers that was with us was like, man, are y'all going to get us out of here before this snow hits? And the dude said, we will get you out of here because there is nothing to do here. So we will get you out of here.
So he just admits it.
He admits it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, there
even
you go.
Peyton Manning left and went to Denver.
Well,
Yep. I feel like a lot of people move out of Indiana.
maybe that's true.
You hear that, Riley? If you're watching, that's for you.
Okay. All right.
Why do you think? Why do you think the Midwest is a hub of cults? Is it the rural, because some of it's like just vast areas too, I feel like.
Well, you know who else comes from Indiana? Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses.
I could see him being
Wow.
a cult guy.
Maybe it's all those crop circles and stuff.
The aliens.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of an odd deal, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this began in the 50s, of all things.
Yeah.
1954 was kind of when it all began in Indiana with Jim Jones, James. Is it Warren? Yeah, James Warren Jones. Mm-hmm. What's his name?
Not James Earl Jones.
James Warren Jones. That sounds like a Supreme Court justice.
It kind of does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy had a terrible childhood. This is probably no surprise.
Yeah, his dad was a World War I veteran, World War II veteran.
Yep, and was a victim of mustard gas.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
okay, so it was World War One.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is that? What's the lasting effects of that?
Well, I know that he couldn't work, and so they were extreme poverty. His mother didn't work, and his mother, they say, was not a motherly type. She
Yeah.
did not have good maternal instincts.
Okay.
And so it was just it really was quite a disastrous upbringing. And he was a really odd kid from the very beginning. Said a lot about how he would he became fascinated with his mother's religion. And so he went to the church that she went to, which I think was a Methodist church or something. I mean, it was
it's
pretty
It's
mainstream.
Pentecostal.
Yeah, he ended up in a Methodist church shortly after that.
Yep.
But he sort of fancied himself to be a preacher, and so he would he would do funerals.
Wow. That was
lot.
kind of where he started.
But not
Foreshadowing.
but not for real people. I mean, like he would just
Oh.
do funerals.
I'm burying my
Wow.
G.I.
Yeah.
Joe today.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, if I walked in, like my son's like 8 years old and he's
Yeah.
practicing doing
Dearly
funerals,
beloved, yeah.
I'd be like,
Like to welcome the family and
go
friends.
outside and play.
I know. But then he started picking up dead animals off the road.
All right, then I'd really be worried.
And doing funerals for the animals.
Okay.
But then he started actually killing the animals and
All
then
right, I'm
doing
getting
their
some
funerals.
serial killer
Yeah, I
vibes
was
here.
gonna say that's
Yeah.
that's one of the telltale
John Wayne
signs.
Gacy,
Yeah.
yeah.
Killing
It
small
was said
animals.
that one time he was there were some neighborhood kids around, and he dropped a puppy from like the third floor, killed the puppy, and then did a funeral.
Wow.
What? I want to know what the other kids were thinking.
They were terrified.
I bet.
They were absolutely
How,
terrified.
does it give any idea how old he was when he was doing that?
Like 12-ish.
It's raining cats
Man,
and dogs.
that dude I'd have sent him somewhere.
Well, and obviously he had no friends.
Yeah.
And so,
wonder why.
Yeah, his mother and father divorced eventually, and that's when they moved to the city, and he finished high school. It was just apparently he was a really good student. Graduated high school with honors, and then went on to college. I'm not going to get the first college right, but he changed colleges after 2 years to Butler University. Graduated Butler with a degree. Met his wife there. They got married. All that kind of stuff. But
So I guess, did he quit killing animals senselessly and doing funerals?
yes, he did. But he became absolutely infatuated with communism.
Yep.
Like,
Seems like a natural progression. You know,
Yeah.
you go
And
from killing animals
and socialism too, didn't he?
well, I mean, he started out with socialism and sort of, kind
Went
of
to communism.
I mean, just
Yeah. Which is a weird transition.
It is a very, but he hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah,
he was a communist.
indoctrinated.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he became, he was sort of taken in by a Methodist superintendent. So it wasn't a minister, but it was kind of a, church
Communist.
official kind of thing.
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
kidding.
Yeah. Hey, Methodists. Yeah, we love you. And so he became a student pastor at this Methodist church, Somerset Southside Methodist Church in Indianapolis. But he left that church, he says, because they forbid him from integrating the church.
Yeah.
Because this was in the what time? That'd have been in the
50s?
52 was when that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, this is why, as you're doing this, because I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know that there's ever been a movie about Jim Jones.
I'm sure there have.
There is one that you can find on YouTube. It's kind of a documentary.
Okay. Well, I can't. I was gonna say I know why it's not like a big hit that you'd see in theaters because he killed animals.
Yeah.
No, you can't have that. So like if they had a movie and a dude drops a puppy from a thing and kills him, no one would see that movie.
No. They would have to edit that part out.
They would.
That's interesting because I've seen a lot of documentaries on Jonestown, but I don't think I've ever seen like a biopic or anything.
They can't. You can only kill the people.
They always pick up. They most of the time they pick up from California on.
Yeah.
But we are known for our in-depth journalism.
That's right.
We get down to the nitty-gritty. Some of the stuff is really informative, though. Because
it tells you how he got there.
That's exactly right.
He was a serial killer.
And it's important, too, to track along with the state of the country at this point. Like in the 50s, like we know segregation was a big thing at this point.
Yeah. It was a much better time back then, right?
The pastor said that, not me.
But I love it when people say that.
Things are so much worse.
To the white picket fences, and it was like
Jim Crow laws. Yeah, that's what you want.
Everything was white.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even the
it was
fences.
such a great time.
And music sucked.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Crazy. Yeah.
But another person has a different story about why he left that Methodist church, and they said it was because he was misappropriating funds.
Oh.
So this is going to start a pattern because he's going to say one thing and reality is actually another.
So he
thing.
was the first ever Antifa.
I guess you might say that. Yeah.
Was he like? I'm assuming back then, probably a pretty charismatic guy.
Well, what happened was in 1954 he founded his own church called the Community Unity Church.
That is a name.
Unity.
Don't we have T-shirts that say that?
Maybe.
Well, I think we do.
But not that way.
I think it even has the Kool-Aid.
It just says Unity highlighted in community.
Don't it even have the Kool-Aid man on there?
Yes. I'm kidding.
Yeah. But here's the deal. He went to this healing service at a, wouldn't you know it, Seventh-day Baptist church. It's not Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
Seventh-day Adventist will show up later.
You know what? We haven't put a bullseye on this shit, but we are getting really close.
There seems to be a common denominator.
The common denominators, Midwest Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah.
Ben Carson, you better not start a religion.
If you've been watching us, we are zeroing that shot group in.
This is a Seventh-day Baptist church, which is a strain of Baptist world that they worship on Saturday.
Okay.
So they're 7-day Adventists that can't dance.
Probably. Yeah. I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Tracking.
They're Seventh-day Adventists that are not allowed to have fun.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So he got this idea. He noted that healing services, miracle services, revival services, things like that could attract people and generate income.
Oh.
That's where he first got the idea. He was not at all interested, honestly, in anything God-oriented. He just saw an opportunity. This is a technique I could use.
He saw a business model.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it was he could accomplish his social goals, his political goals through attracting all these people, and
Yeah.
It says, we'll get into this in a minute, but I'll just set the stage for this. But Jones and his, subsequent followers hold these healing services, and then they would knowingly, strategically fake these healings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, in fact, there was one story that he was extracting a tumorous mass from somebody's head. And he did his whole faith healer thing, and he commanded it to come out and everything, and he comes up with this blob of tissue, in his hand.
Ground beef.
It was a chicken liver.
Okay, yeah, it looks like a tumor.
He was holding it in his mouth the whole time.
The dude that was like supposed to be healed.
No, Jim Jones was holding the chicken liver in his mouth.
A raw chicken liver.
Yes, until he could pretend to extract it out of the man's head.
Wow. Ozzy Osbourne's got nothing on that.
What was the benefit for the people helping? Would he give them some of the money?
What do you mean?
It's benefiting the
Why
kingdom,
was
man.
like the people that were in, or did the people that were helping him, they didn't know that they were being deceived?
No, they were all in on it.
See, so
Yeah.
I mean, did they? Why?
It's business model.
Because they all made money.
I was going to say, so
Yeah.
he was giving them a cut.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he had a little traveling revival healing service team that went with him, and they one guy was like the publicity guy, and another guy was the logistics guy.
Yeah.
And, and then there was a couple others that orchestrated the.
So he'd stage them in the crowd and be like, "You brother,"
Yep,
and he'd be like, "I got a bad headache, preacher."
Yep.
All right, so Sunday Peter's
Wow.
gonna lasso you.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just
And
fall
he's
down the aisle.
gonna have a chicken liver in his mouth. Yeah, and I'm gonna be like,
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's exactly what. No, that is not what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to pretend to extract a tumorous blob out of anybody's head. That is not going to
Well, I
happen.
mean, it
Good
made a lot of
Lord.
money for Jim Jones.
So all of this stuff came about through. He was very attracted to something called the Latter Rain movement.
Okay.
The Latter Rain movement was associated with this. I guess you could call it a denomination called the Independent Assemblies of God. And these were all churches and preachers that embraced what they called the Latter Rain movement, which had a kind of a short run. I suppose a little bit of it is still around today, but they got this revelation that that God was starting a movement that would take the church back to its roots in the second chapter of Acts.
Oh, gotcha.
So lots of signs and wonders and other tongues and miracles.
Probably the beginning of the charismatic movement.
Yeah, it actually sort of morphed into the charismatic movement. We talked before about the difference between the Pentecostals and the charismatics. They're sort of neighbors, but they're not exactly the same.
Right.
But definitely all about the whole signs and wonders and miracles thing.
It's about that time frame too. Yeah.
And it was in 1955, so this would have been a year after he started his own church, started traveling, started getting his little caravan together. He held his first big meeting. Like he was going to other people's churches first, but now he's going to start setting up his own big conference type tent meetings, that kind of thing.
Right.
And he got involved with this guy named William Branham. Now, many people will actually know that name because William Branham was, in fact, I got a whole article about William Branham because this guy is crazy.
he looks crazy in that picture. He's kind of got crazy eyes.
He is crazy. He was honestly one
Looks
of
a little
the,
bit like George Bush.
Well, he's got
kinda does,
got a crazy, I don't know, just
Yeah.
a dead eyes or something.
Yeah, he started his whole thing in the 40s, and he was the faith healer of his day.
Oh, right.
He spawned people like Oral Roberts.
Wow.
that whole.
Wow.
He was the OG original.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Benny Hinn before Benny Hinn.
Oh yeah. He out-hinned Benny Hinn. Yeah. I mean, it was he would get like anywhere from like 15 to 30,000 people at his
Woo,
events.
Lord.
Yeah.
Would he stage people in there?
Go back. Look at the progression of his religion.
Yeah.
He's like Baptist, Pentecostal, non-denominational.
Yeah.
I can't claim any of this anymore.
Yeah.
It's like
It's really weird because this guy never told a straight story in his life.
I can imagine.
I mean, never. And yet people still to this day, I mean, he's the father, the granddaddy of all. To this day, yeah, absolutely. We'll point to William Branham as the starter of the whole big,
And they don't think he's a big phony?
apparently many don't, but he was a phony. He claimed to this guy. His start is even crazier than Jim Jones. He says that he was visited by an angel in 1946 who said that he was the next Elijah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was commissioned to be the next Elijah. And so he started just, like going around. I mean, he started traveling almost immediately.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is, he was very involved with the KKK.
Well, that's solid.
It was a big
background.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was he got involved with this guy named Roy Davis at the First Pentecostal Baptist Church of Jeffersonville in Kentucky, who ordained him as an independent Baptist minister and an elder in his church, and he went out from there. So Pentecostal Baptist, Seventh Day Baptist. Well, I'm just saying. So he started with these tent revival meetings, and he said while he was baptizing converts at the Ohio River, a bright light descended over him, and he heard a voice say, "As John the Baptist was sent to forerun the first coming of Jesus Christ, so your message will forerun his second coming." And it just goes on from there.
Do you think these guys?
So Jim Jones didn't remove his tumor.
Yeah.
No, he did not.
Do you think these dudes are just nuts, or do you think they're just full of crap?
I don't know if he believed any
Yeah.
of this stuff, and it's really weird because he would claim all of these people got healed, and his own wife and child died of tuberculosis.
No, so he could heal everybody but them.
Apparently,
So he's like a
Yeah.
mechanic.
He
Drives a bad, crappy car. Fixes.
there you go.
So that's what it is. Self-healers or the healers. You don't want to be close to them.
Well, that's what Elijah did. He went around just healing everybody.
Well, he actually kind of did, but and he claimed to have a resurrection at his church or at a funeral home there in Jeffersonville, and they tried to find out anything about it, and they couldn't. They never did.
Imagine
discover
that.
Yeah.
If I was dead and got brought back again, everybody'd know it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So he started with his large meetings in 1946, and I'm just kind of scanning this. There was a meeting in St. Louis that drew over 4,000 people. He hooked up with this guy named Joseph Matson Bowes, who was a Pentecostal minister who had a magazine called Herald of Faith, and it was through that magazine that he began to get notoriety.
Okay.
And so
Would he heal you through the magazine? Would he be like, write in to the editors?
maybe he would. So
We do not promise that if you leave us a comment, we cannot promise that you will be healed.
Unless you leave the $2.
That's right.
yeah, that's
Appreciation.
exactly right.
Hey, if you ask for prayers, we'll give them to you, though.
So this guy Matson Bowes was the one who actually endorsed and ordained Jim Jones.
Oh,
So
gosh.
here's how the whole thing, kind of.
So it's a hierarchy.
But now I'm assuming this dude, since he was part of the KKK, he was not for bringing in.
Well, see, this is the weird thing about it is because he would say in his meetings that he wanted everybody, all races, but in the background was playing this whole KKK thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm assuming that Jim Jones did not know about this, otherwise he would have never gotten involved with them.
Yeah.
That's two wildly different extremes.
It is really really weird. But here was his best trick. His best trick was, you'd have this prayer line, right? And he would pick one out of the prayer line to say, okay, you, God's, telling me you. And he would say, okay, this is your name. This is where you live. This is your address. This is your illness. This is, he would just say all this stuff. And everybody would just go, oh, wow, this guy's a prophet of God and all this stuff. Well, everybody who wanted healing had to fill out a card. And so his people would just feed him information, and he would just already know it.
Yeah.
And he said that the two signs that that he knew somebody was going to get healed, he would feel vibrations in his hand. And then he would get this word of knowledge. So when he got the vibrations in his hand and a word of knowledge, he knew that person was absolutely going to be healed. And he would claim that you are healed. Now just say it. He said it might take a few days for it to happen all the way. So just go home and just keep proclaiming that you're healed.
That's kind of like your buzzer goes off when your table's ready, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then they would die, a week later or a year later or whatever.
They didn't believe in it.
He'd say, well, you didn't do what I told you to do.
Yeah.
One guy died, and he said, well, he didn't obey the commandment I gave him to quit smoking. So there you go. All bets are off.
Leave themselves a little out there.
But he one campaign in Houston, they had to relocate to the Sam Houston Coliseum.
Wow.
Yeah,
They had that many people.
It was a big deal. So all that relates to Jim Jones because he knew about this guy, and he saw this guy, and he watched him work, and he knew about the latter rain movement. And so in his first set of meetings, he got William Branham to come.
Interesting.
Now, the most interesting thing about it is William Branham's reign was coming to a close.
Yeah.
Like he was on his last legs. So this is like a revitalization for him, and Jim Jones gets the covering of this guy. And so at 56, Jim Jones is ordained as an independent Assemblies of God minister by this Matson Bowes guy. And he had several different healing campaigns. Through these campaigns, Branham issued a prophetic endorsement of Jim Jones and his ministry, saying that God used these conventions to send forth a great new wave of ministry. Yeah. So that's when he started the People's Temple. He was very adamant. Now, when William Branham would speak, he would put a rope between the white people and the black and brown people. But Jim Jones did not do that. It was like, no, we're this is.
So Jim didn't notice that?
Yeah, he did, and I think when he started out on his own, he said, "We're not going to do that."
Yeah.
It's like he would do whatever, he would fit into whatever system he could.
He's just a chameleon.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He began to started this People's Temple Christian Church Full Gospel. That's what it was called, and then they shortened it to People's Temple.
People's Temple.
But by 1960. This was like a going thing. And they started doing all of this social work. They had a soup kitchen for the poor. They included rent assistance, job placement services, free canned goods, clothing, and coal for winter heating. They would, on average, serve about 2,800 meals per month.
Jeez.
That was when he was appointed to the Indianapolis Human Rights Commission. So he's like
Moving up in politics.
You know what this makes me think of? When somebody says, like, you take an organization like Planned Parenthood, and if people are like, yeah, but if you want to criticize the abortion thing, and they're like, oh, yeah, but look at these good things that they do. I know. It's like, okay, look at the good things they were doing. Do you think they were good with what Jim did?
It's funny, too. You look at who the top contributors to each presidential election are. They're the exact same people.
Yeah.
Like one bank will give each presidential candidate the exact same amount of money. They're just backing the winner regardless.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So this is when now the temple grows considerably.
Yeah.
Like it gets to 300, then it gets to 600. Now it's like 1,200. And so this is when he starts to kind of clamp down a little bit. He studied and read extensively about this character named Father Divine.
Okay.
Oh, that's an interesting name.
I know. Father Divine, the founder of the International Peace Mission Movement. He brought some members of his temple to visit, and he studied his writings and his preachings and his style. He wanted to adopt his style because obviously it was very successful.
Yeah.
And he would listen to tape recordings of his sermons and things like that. And so he started printing Father Divine's material for his members and began to preach that members should abstain from sex and only adopt children.
Wow.
Yeah. We're going to, later on, it would get into like what we saw with the Branch Davidians, where it was forced abortions and things like that.
Yep.
Wow.
Crazy, crazy.
Father Divine looks like kind of what I expected. He's kind of got like the pimp hat on.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently was a great communicator.
You sure that's not Robert Johnson?
It kind of looks like it. So this is a pivotal paragraph right here. In 1959, Jones tested the new fiery rhetorical style that Divine had used in a sermon. His speech captivated members with lulls and crescendos as Jones challenged individual members in front of the group. He would single people out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's effective.
It also marked the beginning of People's Temple's underlying sort of us versus them message and mentality.
Gotcha.
And so he started sort of parroting and trumpeting this theme, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Now, this is actually a quote from Karl Marx, but he likened it to a verse in Acts, where it said, distribution was made to each as any had need. And so that verse morphed into a Karl Marx quote.
Yeah, Marxism in scripture, you know.
It comes right from the Bible. But if you repeat a lie enough times and you believe it, then it's not a lie anymore. Right? Yeah.
What do you think? This pulled up on Father Divine. What do you think his net worth was when he died in 1966?
66. 1.3 million.
10 million.
God,
that's a freaking ton of money. 1966.
Oh, that is a lot of money.
Man, that guy was Bruce Wayne.
No wonder he idolized him.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So they began tightening control even more. Required that members spend Thanksgiving and Christmas with its temple family rather than with blood relatives. You know why they do that. Separate the herd,
Isolation.
And he coined this phrase called religious communalism. And he would repeatedly cite that Bible verse to paint Jesus as a communist. So Jesus was a communist. And
that's something he's not the only person I've ever. You see people say that online all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jesus was Russian. Y'all didn't know?
Yeah.
So the more he got forward with his communist message, the more his congregation shrank. So he sort of backed off of that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm sure some people picked up on it.
Yeah, and so then he began to, instead of trumpeting communism, he started having visions and making prophecies. So in 1961, he had a vision in which Indianapolis and Chicago were destroyed in a nuclear attack. So he said, we need to look for a new location. And initially, he thought about Brazil.
So this was right at the Red Scare, too.
Yep.
Right at the Cold War.
And so they're going to move to Brazil. But he went to Brazil, scouted it out. In the meantime, his church was dwindling, so he's like, I got to get back there. And so he returned in 1963 and had to go out on the road again to make enough money to get things going again. Yeah. So then he decides it's going to be California.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty commie place,
Kennedy had just died too, so.
Well, there you go. I was just born that year, so there you go. How about
in
that?
63?
Yeah.
Not long. Me and Pat came not too long after
that.
Yeah.
What year were you born?
I was born in 91.
91?
Wow.
Yeah.
What about you?
86.
86.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Same year as Victoria's Secret.
Which is not much of a secret.
It's not.
No. So in 65, he made plans to move to Redwood Valley, California, near the city of Ukiah. Never heard of it.
Me neither.
Northern California, ain't it?
Very much northern California.
I'm assuming that's near the Redwoods, Redwood Forest.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's north of Sacramento and Santa Rosa and all that.
Yeah.
He took 140 of his followers, of his most loyal followers, they moved to California. His assistant pastor, who was not in favor of this idea, stayed back to keep the People's Temple warm.
And this is in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. He stayed in Indianapolis.
Thought you were about to say to keep the pimps warm. He been hanging out with Father Divine. Father Divine was worth it'd be $106 million today.
$106 million.
Pimping ain't easy.
Pimping ain't easy, man.
Yeah. So he had an education degree, and so he secured a job as a history and government teacher at an adult education school in Ukiah.
That is frightening. So they got this huge communist that's doing that. So not much has changed.
Exactly. Yeah. They're just not so secretive about it anymore. Yeah. So he used his position to recruit for the new People's Temple. And he would, his message of Marxism and he lectured on religion, but mostly from a negative standpoint.
Yeah. And this was in the 60s, so it's a prime
Checks out.
time.
Oh yeah, and you're in Ukiah, which they apparently do not vet their adult education teachers all that much. But he would plant members of the People's Temple in his classrooms.
And he's good at that.
Yeah, to kind of help him with recruitment and amen everything he said and everything. So in 67, they had another 150 or so members. And then this blew my mind. I had no idea. In 1968, the People's Temple California location was admitted to Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, which is obviously the more progressive side of the Church of Christ. Mm-hmm. But still, it's so odd that they would.
Do they not vet the theology the guy's teaching?
Well, once again, he's morphing into whatever,
No, I guess, he just tells them what they need to hear.
That's exactly right.
I mean, man's done been to space at this point, so.
And so now he starts getting, kind of cozy with people like Lyndon Johnson, J. Edgar Hoover.
Really?
They're part of the Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ.
Wow.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Wonder if Nixon was a member.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if he...
It's running into his time frame.
It is, but was he a member of anything? He had to be at that time.
Well, he is not a crook.
That's right. So by 1969, they're about 300 strong in California.
Okay.
Jones begins to develop his own theology. It's sort of a combination of this Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, plus Latter Rain, plus William Branham, plus Father Divine, plus communism.
Okay. It's
You
a weird
talking about
smorgasbord there.
That's like the best tasting soup ever.
Yeah, that is a theological soup.
Yeah.
Right there. And he coined a new phrase. Instead of religious communalism, now it is apostolic socialism.
So he just came out and said it.
He's one S away.
Yeah. But see, it has a Christian word attached to it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Socialism, right? It says, according to religious studies professor Professor Catherine Wessinger.
Oh, man. Mike Tyson over here.
It's unbelievable.
He always spoke of the social gospel's virtues, but chose to conceal that his gospel was actually communism. So, and was but till the late 60s, before he exposed himself as a...
Well, and like I said, that would make sense because that's that 60s movement, and people are, the Vietnam stuff's coming all out, like that kind of tracks.
Absolutely, it does. And then he begins to criticize organized religion, traditional Christianity. It has an incorrect view of God. He used to call it a flyaway religion. The Bible is a tool to oppress women and non-white people. And he says the traditional Christianity's view of God is a sky god who is no God at all. I'm a follower of the true God who created all things, right?
That's one of those pillars. They know the real God.
Yep.
And
this
none
is
of
where
us
it
do.
begins to happen, right here.
Yep.
He comes up with this thing called the divine principle, only given to him. It's the true principle of God. It's love, and love is socialism. And then he begins to say that he is a savior sent by the true God to rescue humanity from their sufferings.
So it says on the golden tablets.
Yeah. But here's the weird thing about it is he's not basing this on anything.
No, and on Jim Jones.
Yeah.
He's not saying the angel,
And Pimp Daddy Faith.
moron came to me and he's just saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are buying it.
He's a good businessman. I give him
selling
that.
Some of these have been with him now for several years.
It's 10 years.
Yeah, a decade.
So they're they're
10
in.
plus, yeah.
Hey, we've seen it even not too far away how people will hang with the man that they're following,
It's
like
true.
the preacher. They'll hang on to him even if very questionable things are going
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Completely.
It's I call it cultish.
Yes.
And so he says the divine principle is equivalent to being crucified with Christ.
Oh, wow. That's a bold thing to say.
Well, and then he begins to sort of pump himself up as divine. He says, he says, I am come as God socialist.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we can say this. He is bold.
He is bold.
He is, I mean, he has big
Cojones.
aspirations. Aspirations.
Yeah.
This is a quote around this time. What you need to believe in is what you can see. If you see me as your friend, I'll be your friend. If you see me as your father, I'll be your father, for those of you that don't have a father. If you see me as your savior, I'll be your savior. If you see me as your God, I'll be your God.
What if you see him as an idiot?
Yeah. It would fit, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but you probably wouldn't be part of his church then, I guess.
I get shunned.
So he says he circulated a tract entitled The Letter Killeth, criticizing the King James Bible, dismissing King James as a slave owner and a capitalist who was responsible for the corrupt translation of Scripture. Only Jim Jones has the correct. Yeah.
I love that he's preaching this socialist communist narrative as he's engaging in capitalism through his church.
And see, here's the weirdest part about this, though. All of this is currently happening under the umbrella of the Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ. Mm-hmm. But even now,
they haven't booted him.
No, not yet. But it's so wild because he just rejects. He does things opposite of their own, of everything they believe.
Were they just oblivious?
Maybe he was paying the denominational dues.
Well, this is kind of enlightening though. People have always been gullible.
Well, yeah. Right.
We always talk about how people today are just so gullible. Well, I mean, come on. You're buying this in the 50s and 60s.
The word gullible is not in Webster's dictionary.
I do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Get out. Get out.
I was wanting to watch it unfold.
We're all too smart for that.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's in there twice.
He said, exactly. Gullibles travels, right? Yeah.
You are not going to... I have been to the Eiffel Tower before, so you are not going to trick me.
Anybody who's been to the Eiffel Tower is not going to fall for that.
That's
one.
right.
Double elevators.
Exactly. He rejected even the few required tenets of their denomination. Instead of implementing the sacraments as prescribed by the denomination, he followed Father Divine's Holy Communion practices. I didn't even look those up, but you can imagine. That's a $110 million communion service.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He created his own baptismal formula, baptizing his converts in the holy name of socialism.
Dang,
In the holy name of socialism.
Taking communion with caviar and crystal.
Holy socialism.
That dude took social justice warrior to the extreme.
This is also when he began getting paranoid. Mm. He thought that people were going to discover how communist he actually was. He also feared losing the church's tax-exempt status.
Mm. All right, well, this also makes me think back, like Lucille Ball. It was in I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
What time frame was it when the communist scare was going on? Was that back during World War II specifically, or was it this time frame where, like, Lucille Ball was one of the actresses that she got in hot water?
It really started in 59.
Yeah.
But the Bay of Pigs in 61 was like the big jumping point, maybe in 60, 61. But that was the big Red Scare, and it's actually stayed that way till Reagan.
All right, so then...
Oh, yeah.
So then he could have been a little justified in his paranoia here because they were popping actresses and actors. Like,
for sure.
I mean, if you were being found as a communist, like, it was bad.
Yeah,
there's real bad.
Trumbo was a Hollywood writer, and he had to write films under pseudonyms.
Oh, really?
Because he was considered a communist.
Yeah. I know Lucille Ball because I think it was because of her husband at the time because he was Cuban.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that immediately.
Ricky Ricardo, man.
Yep.
Exactly. Lucy, I'm home.
Love that show, man. That's a great show.
So he began concocting these conspiracy theories. He warned his followers of an imminent apocalyptic genocidal race war and nuclear war. This is like a running theme. Mm-hmm. He claimed that Nazi fascists and white supremacists would put people of color into concentration camps. and I am the
So
Messiah.
he's a Democrat.
Yeah, well, he goes beyond that, man. So I'm the Messiah sent to save people by giving them a place of refuge in our church. He taught that that America was capitalism was Babylon from Revelation. He says, if you're born in capitalist America, racist America, fascist America, then you're born in sin. But if you're born in socialism, you're not born in sin.
But it's just funny, like Pat said, this meantime, like in the meanwhile, he's capitalizing off of capitalism the whole
He
time.
was born in America.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing is, it says in this little article here, it says historians are divided over whether Jones actually believed his own teachings or was just using them to manipulate people. Well, I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I mean, he's teaching them that the only way to escape the genocidal nuclear war is to accept his teachings.
Give me your money. Don't give America your money.
And after the apocalypse is over, we'll emerge from it to establish this perfect communist utopia.
But I almost think the dude was so crazy that he believed it. Like, I'm really beginning to think this guy just might have started to believe it.
It's like the David Koresh thing.
Yep.
You know, I don't think he believed it at first, but
Like you said, you repeat it enough,
Yes.
you eventually
Yes.
start to believe it.
He says in a 1976 phone conversation, Jones admitted to be an agnostic and an atheist. Just flat out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now that hurts what I just said then.
Well, but here's the deal. If you're an agnostic and an atheist, then you become God.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. You have some sort of divinity,
true.
self-imposed divinity. His wife admitted in a 1977 New York Times interview. Now, everything else, the bad stuff went down in 78. So this is right before they bolted. She says that he's trying to promote Marxism in the U.S. by mobilizing people through religion. Mao Zedong is his inspiration.
Wow.
Yeah. Jim used religion to try to get some people out of the opiate of religion. So he used his own religion.
Yeah.
One time, she says, Jim used, he slammed the Bible on the table, yelling, "I've got to destroy this paper idol."
Was she a believer in him?
Yeah, she was right there till the end, apparently. It's crazy. But then, as if this wasn't enough, this was not only the time he began to get paranoid, but this is when he began to use all kinds of drugs.
That would help. Yeah, that helps with the paranoia.
Exactly. So now he's seen things. And
That's not any way related to the drugs.
No, these are,
They're divine.
Yes.
It's visionary, right? He's warning his followers there's an enemy seeking to destroy us. They're all out here. And this is just really where it kind of starts to go off the rails, and nobody can see it.
Start to go off the rails.
But I mean, like in tangible ways. It's not just bubbling under the surface anymore.
This is wild.
It's starting to come out.
Yeah.
He's identifying the enemy from the Ku Klux Klan, then it became the Nazis, then it became redneck vigilantes. Yeah, I take offense to that.
I was going to say, you might be hanging out with some of them.
Yeah, I mean, from Tipton County, Tennessee. No. And then, of course, the American government.
Klan, Nazis, and rednecks.
He would prophesy that fires, car accidents, and death or injuries would come upon anyone unfaithful to him in his teachings.
Whoa, man. He's going Final Destination.
He's saying cars and car accidents and what?
Death, injuries, that kind of thing.
Oh, so
fires.
Normal ways of dying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen to you if you turn your back on me and my teachings.
All right.
Yeah.
Start checking my brake
And then he
lines.
started motivating them to be crusaders and all this stuff. So he develops this thing called the Planning Commission. This is his board of elders. Eventually grows to over 100 people.
Yeah.
These are all of his yes people, and they plan everything. They do all this stuff. And this is when he begins also to require all the people who join to turn over all their assets to the church in exchange for free room and board. This is where this whole communal kind of thing comes into play. They say that when they moved to Guyana, that in the first year, it was almost all of its support was from Social Security checks that were turned over. Yeah.
It's funny that it's socialism for everyone else, but capitalism for him.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
But isn't that how socialism works?
It absolutely
you're in
is.
I was going to say, yeah, that's exactly how it works too.
Yeah. And so they set up agricultural operations in Redwood Valley. They grew their own food. They had community outreach projects. And see, there's all this stuff underneath, but it has a veneer of we are doing so much good.
Yep.
And they did. In fact, they did so much good that politicians like Mondale right up until the move to South America, it was like the reason the South American government, the government in Guyana, accepted them was on Mondale's recommendation.
Oh, dang, really?
Yeah, these guys do so much good. You're going to love it with them there.
I bet Mondale didn't do no recommendations after that.
Yeah, he did. Gosh. He's like, I got rid of them.
Yeah. So they
have they started getting naked yet?
Not yet.
All right.
That's going to happen.
I was going to say, y'all know how these cults work.
You hear what Logan said, y'all? Naked yet?
Yep,
he wanted them redneck.
They going to get naked yet.
Okay, so here's some of the stuff they did. They used 10 to 15 Greyhound-type bus cruisers to transport members up and down California freeways each week for recruitment and fundraising.
Dang, that's some money going right there.
He rode in bus number 7 always, which contained armed guards and a special section lined with protective metal plates.
Why did he choose number 7?
Because it's the holy number.
All the rest of them weren't protected either?
No, only him. Yeah, because he's the protector of socialism.
He's the important one.
He is the protector, so he must be protected.
In the 1970s, they also made a quarterly trip to Washington, D.C. In 1973, Representative George Brown Jr. Entered a lengthy and complimentary description of the People's Temple into the Congressional Record. The Washington Post ran an August 18th editorial page item stating that the 660 temple visitors were the hands-down winners of anybody's Tourist of the Year award after spending an hour cleaning up the Capitol grounds.
Wow.
That's the stuff they would do. And they would distribute pamphlets. They went to Houston and Detroit and Cleveland, and they would hold these healing services, and the temple members would be plants in the healing services. They would jump out of their wheelchairs and drop their crutches. In fact, to the point that there were certain meetings where the local members were the minority in the meeting, and they didn't even know it.
Yeah. Man, so... in a lot of these cults, there are people that I feel bad for in this scenario, but a lot of them are turds in this scenario as well.
Yes.
Like they know this is a bunch of baloney.
But they're taking in, this is in 1965, 66, 67. The weekly take from offerings and healing services was $15,000 to $25,000 in the Los Angeles area.
A week.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
8 to 12,000 in San Francisco. And they began this mailing enterprise, 30,000 to 50,000 mailers monthly.
That is insane.
Yeah, and they were selling keychains, lockets, pictures of Jim Jones, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So then they went ahead and started. What became their headquarters in San Francisco, and then they put up another temple in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So then they would ride the corridor up and down from Redwood Valley all the way down to Los Angeles and back, like once or twice a month. But what happened then was, and they were probably, I don't know, several thousand members, shall we say. They claim to have 50,000 members, but that is exaggerated.
Yeah.
That's William Branham stuff, So in 72, this guy, Lester Kinsolving, the San Francisco Examiner and the Indianapolis Star ran the first 4 parts of a 7-part series on the temple by Lester Kinsolving. And he was not, it was not a glowing report.
Yeah.
He's like, this is an expose, right? Mm-hmm. And so he several aspects of church dealings, claims of healing, Jones's ritual of throwing Bibles down in church, yelling, "This black book has held down you people for 2,000 years. It has no power." Stuff like that.
Black book?
This black book, yes. Mm-hmm. So the temple members picketed the papers, harassed the editors, made death threats on many of the journalists and reporters.
Wow.
And so they quit after the 4th one. There were supposed to be 3 more.
Dang.
And then in 73, 8 young members known as the Gang of 8 defected together. This is to let you know what kind of a it's
environment.
Crazy. Right. They were aware of threats to potential defectors, and so they suspected that Jim Jones would send a search party to look for them. And that was exactly right. He employed multiple search parties, including one which scanned highways from a rented airplane.
Dang, man, he didn't pull no punches.
No. It says they drove 3 trucks loaded with firearms toward Canada, avoiding U.S. Highway 101. They wanted to get to Canada, but they knew they couldn't take the firearms over the border.
Yeah.
So they hid themselves in the hills of Montana, where they wrote a long letter documenting their complaints.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he find them?
No, he did not find them.
I mean, can you find anything in Montana?
But what? A big sky. You can find a
Hey,
big sky.
yeah.
If anyone goes to Montana, they're gone. You ain't finding them.
Yeah. If they want to be gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But this is where we get the first little hint of madness.
Yeah.
Absolute madness. Because it was after this incident, he called 30 of his closest members into his home and said, in light of this mass defection, in order to keep our apostolic socialism, we should all kill ourselves, and leave a note saying that because of harassment, a socialist group cannot exist at this time.
He called 8 people mass defection?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And apparently he became furious, waving a pistol at the Planning Commission and referring to the Gang of 8 as Trotskyite defectors and Coca-Cola revolutionaries.
You ought to do that at the next staff meeting. Just start waving a pistol.
Waving a pistol. This is not how I wanted this to go.
He's got a Nerf gun in there.
Dead air is of the devil. You ought to know that by now. Okay, so during this time in San Francisco, however, listen to this. He became very involved in politics and the legal system. Their voter mobilization efforts proved instrumental in State Senate President George Moscone's run for mayor of San Francisco in '75. Jones was appointed as chairman of the San Francisco Housing Authority Commission. How about that?
75, so this was Gerald Ford.
He's been in the long game.
Yeah.
You know, he's playing the long game.
He received, Jones and the Temple received the support of California political figures such as Moscone, Jerry Brown, Mervyn DeMalley, Willie Brown, the state assembly speaker, Art Agnos, and Supervisor Harvey Milk.
Harvey Milk.
Yep.
Yeah, he was assassinated.
Yeah.
Oh, Willie Brown, that ain't the one that became a judge.
No. But Harvey Milk, he was assassinated in California. It's actually, was it Pelosi who was working there when it happened?
Oh, I thought you were going to say that assassinated him.
No, I think it was Pelosi that was working there when he was assassinated.
And so Jim Jones and Moscone met privately with Jimmy Carter's then running mate, U.S. Senator Walter Mondale.
So this was going into the 76 election.
Days before the 76 election. Also met with First Lady Rosalind Carter on multiple occasions, including a private dinner, and corresponded with her in letters.
I wish I could remember numbers like you, Pat.
I
can't remember dates. I remember World War II, like 1945, like, you know, but like some of the numbers, Pat's like, oh man, I think that was like August 7th. It'd be about 1922. I think it happened at about 8:45 in the afternoon, if I remember right.
3 mile an hour wind out of the southeast.
Yeah. The latitude number was around here. Yeah.
So this now we've made it up to 76.
All right, so we're getting close to that 78 number.
Yeah, this is where we'll spend the last part.
I've been looking at our time. I'm like, there's still quite a bit of craziness.
Well,
this really got to blow open.
Actually, what happens is, you know, he really feels like he's solidified his position.
Yeah,
he's in with the politicians, making a lot of money. They're doing all this good work. He's president of the housing authority. I mean,
he's the man.
Yeah, they're leading demonstrations against evictions and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But man, when it goes bad fast. It goes bad fast.
But it's wild how long he's been getting away with this. Well, the kind of the crazy stuff he's been saying. Because this is now, is this 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
20, almost 25.
Yeah, like dude, that's
50,
pretty crazy.
54.
Has
Yeah.
the Church of Christ, have they kicked him out yet?
I think that dissolved along the way. It didn't say in any of these articles
Gotcha.
if there was one particular incident that caused it.
Yeah.
But clearly, by the time all this stuff transpires, they parted company.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to find this, but what happened was, and this was in 78, there was an article that was going to be released, and it was apparently very accurate article and a very damning article.
A hit piece.
It was like gonna blow the whole thing sky high. Jim Jones had already been looking at property, 4,000 acres in Guyana. He wanted that place because now he considered Brazil the ideal place to go in case of a nuclear war. He'd done some research and they said, yeah, the air patterns and the climate and all this stuff, you'd be more likely to survive there. Well, he couldn't get anything like that in Brazil. Guyana, it was the only English-speaking nation in that region, and it's fairly close to Brazil. So he thought, well, let's just do it. And so he met with the governor, whoever he was, and they arranged this whole purchase. So he'd already been looking, pretty much closing the deal. And somebody in his organization called him and read him this article. And his only words were, "We leave tonight."
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
So do we know what the article said?
I don't know what the article
I was
said.
like, did it get released?
I don't know if I don't know anything about it because
Yeah.
I mean we could probably do that research. I didn't get that far, but
article probably just said everything we just spent the last hour talking
Yes.
about.
but in 1977 he started this project, which was called the People's Temple Agricultural Project. Everybody knew it as Jonestown.
Yeah. Yeah.
It started with 50 residents in early 1977. So it was 1977 when this article was supposed to come out. I'm assuming the article did come out because he pretty much severed all ties with anybody from the States shortly after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he saw Jonestown as both a socialist paradise and a sanctuary from media scrutiny that has started with the Kinsolving articles back then. He said that what we saw in the United States was creeping fascism. Creeping fascism. Yeah, he goes, it's a big, long diatribe about the multinationals are getting much larger. Their influence is growing, and the United States is a racist place. So, okay, here's a little more information about the article. It included testimonies by former members, people that had escaped.
The Gang of Eight got him.
Yeah, they apparently they did. So, this article was written by Marshall Kilduff in New West magazine.
Inside People's Temple. That's the name of the article.
Well, there you go.
Yep. You just said that, and it says written by Marshall Kilduff and Phil Tracy.
There you go. So just before publication of the New West piece, editor Rosalie Wright, so was the editor, wow, telephoned Jones to read him the article. She explained she was only doing so before publication because of all the support letters we received on your behalf from the governor of California, Jerry Brown, and others. Yeah. So while still on the phone, he wrote a note to Temple members in the room with him that said, "We leave tonight. Notify Georgetown."
Okay.
So, yeah. And
it just says what we thought it would. It says it was a detailed expose that included allegations from former members, abusive practices, physical beatings, financial exploitation, sexual misconduct, and psychological manipulation. Yeah. And
sounds like a fun place to be.
it does, yeah. And this says this article, along with growing legal pressures and Jones' paranoia, was the tipping point that drove them to flee the U.S.
Wow.
That's pretty wild.
So he set this whole thing up. He built all these cottages. You can kind of see a little.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
They're little tiny cottages. But by 1978, there were almost 1,000 people there. He showed the.
So how many went with him?
It started off with 50.
Okay.
Yeah. And they recruited people from the neighboring regions, but also then once the 50 people got there, they would write back home and go, hey, you got to come down here and join this because we're having a wonderful time.
This is great.
Yeah, exactly.
He's sleeping with all of us. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what happened is you read some of that, didn't you?
Yeah, when I was my research on this dude, let me see here. Yeah, I had my friendly Terminator that I'd asked about it. All right. What it was telling me, Jen Jones manipulation. So here it goes. Let me find the part. It was really interesting, actually, on which part do you want me to go into?
Tell everybody when the sex starts.
All right.
Because that's what everybody wants to know. Because this is one of the common denominators, right, Pat?
Yeah, that's it.
It eventually goes there.
That's it every time.
Every time. That's what we said. So, because I asked my AI bot, we were going through here, and then I said, was he sleeping with the members? And it said, yes. Jim Jones was known to have sexual relationships with members, both men and women.
Yep.
Says as part of his manipulation and control.
That's it.
Claiming sexual authority, he often framed these relationships as a way to connect with his followers spiritually and emotionally. Yeah. He presented himself as the only person who could fulfill their needs or desires. He was sacrificing himself for the greater good. And then it said these relationships were less about genuine attraction and more about asserting dominance.
Absolutely.
But the part that tickled me here a little bit says despite being married to, what's her name, Marceline Jones, he engaged in numerous extramarital affairs. He also claimed to be the only true heterosexual while simultaneously having sexual relationships with male members. That makes me think of, there was this, whatever that show is, that's got, what's his name? Ice-T. You know what I'm talking about, the rapper?
Law and Order?
It's something like that. There was this episode, and I didn't watch the show, but there's a clip, and he's talking to this guy, and I guess they're like, I don't know if it's an inmate, but the inmate's like, I like women, and he says, he's like, you mess with men. He says, I like women for the relationship. I like the men for the sex. And Ice-T goes, well, I got news for you, buddy. That means you're gay. And so that's what, when I read that, I'm like, Jim?
Jim, can we have a talk here?
Yes. So, but yes, of course, sex comes into play. Like, why does that happen in every freaking cult?
And he didn't just have a desire for control. He was obsessed with it.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that it said, like, he was more or less raping the people there because he was coercing them through, it was, I'm the Messiah.
Spiritual abuse, man.
Yep. It is not just about power, it's about domination. Just complete domination. Shortly after they got there, it said he changed the movies.
Okay.
They were watching entertaining movies, but now they were watching Soviet propaganda and documentaries on American social problems.
Yeah.
He's just trying to validate why they were there, right?
Yep.
And then he began having people work 12 hours a day with an hour for lunch, 6 days a week. Things were just sort of unraveling. It says school study, nighttime lectures for adults. How'd you like to just say, oh, yeah, just had a great meal. All right, I'm going to go put my feet up. No, you got to come listen to Jim lecture.
Didn't he lecture for like 6 hours at a time?
What did this man have to talk about so much?
Revolution and enemies, Soviet alliances, crises, and the purported mercenaries sent by this one guy who defected from the temple and turned against the group.
Okay.
Yeah. In mid-1978, his health began to deteriorate. I don't know why he didn't have a healing meeting for himself.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like
because he had his good buddy cocaine.
Because he's like a mechanic, like I said.
Yeah. So his Marceline began running it, and she went back to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Now,
how old was he?
40.
How old would he be at this point? In his 50s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at least 40, mid-40s, up to 50 years old. Yeah, something like that. He compared Jonestown's work schedule to the North Korean system of 8 hours of daily work followed by 8 hours of study. That sounds delightful.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
What the crap?
Left with 8 hours.
He began engaging in techniques for sophisticated mind control and behavior modification, studied and borrowed from Mao Zedong and Kim Il-sung.
yeah. China, North Korea.
Great folks there, yeah.
He would read news and commentary over the speakers from Radio Moscow and Radio Havana. It just got super.
I wonder what was going on with his health.
Well, I think it was just overall deterioration. I mean, first of all, terrible drug use. Also, trying to maintain that level of control is exhausting. I mean, it's just like you've got to be hyper vigilant like 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's also said that they had this agricultural project and everything. So there was no refrigeration and stuff like that. Except for him, he had a refrigerator stocked with cold milk and all the stuff. Yeah. That's the way it goes.
That's funny how that works.
So he had a closed circuit television system, but no one could view anything in the way of film or recorded TV. Doesn't matter. And they couldn't actually watch anything without a temple staffer there to interpret the material for the viewers. So,
Okay.
Even, like, what do they mean? Like, because it was in a different language?
No, because he wanted to maintain this capitalist. He was, speaking out against capitalist propaganda, glowing praise for the Marxist-Leninist messages in material from communist nations.
Okay.
So it was just hyper focused on this whole thing. He recorded himself reading certain parts of the news from different countries over the speakers, so they could hear him all through the day and night. U.S. is capitalist, imperialist villains. Stalin was great. This whole thing. They had a shortwave radio to communicate with the outside. They almost never did.
One radio, right? Mm-hmm. That was their only communication.
That's it. And they would communicate with San Francisco this way and stuff like this. They were on poor soil, so they had to import large quantities of commodities such as wheat. Mm-hmm. They lived in small communal houses, sometimes with walls woven from the truly palm. Most of the time they ate rice, beans, greens, and occasionally meat, sauce, and eggs, except for Jim, because he got whatever he wanted. He even had soft drinks.
Nice.
Dang.
They had medical problems, severe diarrhea, high fevers, all this stuff in February of 1978.
So that's why they did it.
Couldn't take it no more.
We ain't got no Pepto.
If you disobeyed or got out of line or were rebellious, you would be put in a 6x4 by 3 foot plywood box.
Whoa.
If children disobeyed, they would have to spend the night at the bottom of a well, sometimes upside down.
What the crap?
Yeah. They called it the torture hole. And sometimes there would be beatings. For some members, get this, who attempted to escape, drugs such as thorazine, sodium pentothal, chlorohydrate, Demerol, and Valium were administered in an extended care unit.
Wow.
This is also when the armed guards began to appear.
Yeah.
Patrolling day and night. The children were only allowed to see their biological parents briefly at night, and Jones began to require that they call him dad or father, both adults and children.
Okay. Getting weirder.
Yeah, it is honestly the weirdest at this point.
Yeah.
And just you were saying this earlier, the statistics, African Americans made up approximately 70% of Jonestown's population. 45% of the residents were black women. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There goes Pat.
So
remembering them numbers again down there.
I don't know what it is, man.
we got just enough
He's the
time
Rain
to do
Man.
this. Okay, did you read about the White Knights?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't either.
I didn't know about this. But this is one of his techniques. He used to be warning them about the capitalist pigs who were going to come and try to destroy the settlement and all that kind of stuff. All this came from a study of Adolf Hitler and Father Divine to learn how to manipulate the members. Divine told Jones personally to find an enemy and to make sure they know who the enemy is. because it will unify those in the group and make them subservient to you.
Hold on. So he was studying Adolf Hitler, though?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he was also preaching against Adolf Hitler.
But he admired him for his manipulation technique.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the White Knight. They have White Knights. In the middle of the night, Jones would call out, "Alert, alert, alert," over the speakers. Everybody would gather together in the pavilion, which was then surrounded by guards armed with guns and crossbows. Crossbows. How about that?
Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So he says, you got 4 options: attempt to flee to the Soviet Union, commit revolutionary suicide, stay in Jonestown and fight the purported attackers, or flee into the jungle. On at least 2 occasions on these White Knights, simulated mass suicide was rehearsed.
Okay.
Here's how a temple defector, Deborah Layton, describes it.
Grooming.
She says, everyone, including the children, was told to line up. As we passed through the line, we were given a small glass of red liquid to drink. We were told that the liquid contained poison and that we would die within 45 minutes. We all did as we were told. When the time came when we should have dropped dead, Jim Jones explained that the poison was not real and that we had just been through a loyalty test. He warned us that the time was not far off when it would become necessary for us to die by our own hands.
Jeez. And man, 45 minutes to be like, bro, ain't you got anything a little quicker? You know? You mean I got to drink this and think about it for 45 minutes?
I see them guns and crossbows right there.
Yeah. I'd be like, man, shoot me with that crossbow, right? Be sure you aim good, man.
Yeah, I'll take the crossbow.
Yeah, just don't.
Jim Jones been coked out for a week. Yeah, you take the shot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, can you imagine?
No.
That is
mind-bending.
No.
So-
there's no way.
So they did not know these were drills at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, like they're
like maybe the second time they thought maybe it was a drill.
You
but
know
that
why?
first time they're on board with suicide.
You know why you do these drills? I mean, you see it in the military, you see it in school when you do fire drills, tornado drills, whatever, is because you're normalizing traumatic events.
Yeah.
You are normalizing things that are your heightened awareness, your blood pressure's pumping, your adrenaline's pumping, you don't know what to do, but you know to follow the routine.
Yeah.
So get this. One of these White Knights became what they called the 6-day siege. This was elaborate. And honestly, it would have lasted longer if somebody hadn't pressured him to call it off. It says, for days on end, frightened settlers ringed the commune, armed with machetes and whatever crude tools would serve as weapons. Surrounding them, Jones said, were mercenaries bent on murder, as well as the abduction of Jones' son, John Victor Stowen, and others. Marceline and others outside of the commune engaged in interminable shortwave radio conversations with Jones, seeking to dissuade him from ordering a mass suicide. So they're out there going,
like, don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah, exactly. And so apparently the panic reached such a point that an evacuation was ordered by Jones, with dozens of settlers hastily loaded onto boats on the George River for a purported exodus to Cuba. Several people fell into the river, suffering injuries. At last, he bowed to the pressure and the drill ended.
Man, this dude had gone full-blown wacko at this point.
And
he went to live fire drills.
And for months after that, he would refer to the survivors of the siege. These are my heroes. These are my people, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he was a loony bird.
Yeah, and then he began to become paranoid about the Guyanese government. So that was good. And then we get to the actual event. So Leo Ryan, he was he represented California's 11th congressional district. Was friends with the father of Bob Houston, a Temple member in California, whose mutilated body was found near train tracks on October in 1976. 3 days after a taped telephone conversation with his ex-wife in which leaving the temple was discussed. So Leo Ryan is concerned, right?
Quite a coincidence.
I know. So November 14th, 78, he flew to Georgetown along with a delegation that included Jackie Spire, Ryan's then legal advisor, Neville Annaborn, representing Guyana's Ministry of Information, Richard Dwyer, Deputy Chief of Mission of the U.S. Embassy to Guyana, Tim Reiterman, San Francisco Examiner reporter. Greg Robinson, Examiner photographer. Don Harris, NBC reporter. Bob Brown, NBC camera operator. Steve Sung, NBC audio technician. Bob Flick, NBC producer. You can see they're going to do like a
big expose, whatever. Yeah.
Charles Kraus, Washington Post reporter. Ron Havers, San Francisco Chronicle reporter. And concerned relatives, including Tim and Grace Stowen, who had a child.
That last name's familiar.
I know. Stephen Anthony Katsaris, Beverly Oliver, Jim Cobb, Sherwin Harris, and Carol Houston Boyd. Those are all the people that made this trip. When they got there, they were all refused access to Jonestown. But they finally relented because Ryan said, "I'm coming no matter what."
Yeah.
I'm going there. So they the whole party came to an airstrip at Port Kaituma, 6 miles from Jonestown, some hours later. There were some of them that did not make the smaller trip because there was lack of room on the plane and there was some other considerations. So only Ryan Spire, his assistant, and Lane and Gary were allowed into Jonestown. The rest of the party was allowed in after sunset. That night, they attended a musical reception in the pavilion. And I saw a little bit of video footage from this.
Really?
Yeah, they were. The children were dancing and all this stuff. And in this reception, Ryan kind of asks around, "Are you here by your own will? And do you like it here?" And of course, everybody
loves it. It's great.
Yeah. And at one point, he says, he's addressing the crowd there, and he says, he said, I still have my, reservations about this, but by anybody's estimation, you all are living in a wonderful place. And they all burst into cheers. I mean, it's like, yes, we love it here and all that kind of stuff. So the party was received warmly, but Jones said that he felt like a dying man and continued to rant late into the evening about all of this stuff. Apparently, there were audio tapes recovered by investigators that Jones had run rehearsals on how to convince Ryan's delegation that everybody was happy and in good spirits.
All right.
Yeah. So it all kind of started to go sour when some members made a move for defection. There were these two first. He actually passed a note to this NBC reporter, Don Harris. Thought it was Ryan, but it wasn't. He said, "Dear Congressman Vernon Gosney and Monica Bagby, please help us get out of Jonestown." A child nearby witnessed it and snitched.
Oh, gosh. Snitches get stitches. Man, dang.
Yeah, and that was what lit the whole keg right there. Early morning of November 18th, 11 Temple members sensed danger enough to walk out of Jonestown and all the way to the town of Matthews Ridge. They got as far as they could out of Dodge. There were others that basically just went into the jungle. It's like, this Vernon Gosney had to sign a statement saying that he was leaving his 4-year-old son behind of his own free will.
Dang.
Yeah. Then a rainstorm started and emotions took over and things started to get a little bit crazy. This Al Simon attempted to take 2 of his children to Ryan. Please take my children back to the U.S. I mean, his wife, Bonnie, got on the speakers and she denounced her husband, She wanted to stay. It got
nutty.
Nuts. Yeah. It says most of Ryan's party began to depart on a large dump truck back to the airstrip. Ryan and Dwyer stayed behind to process any additional defectors. Shortly before the dump truck left, Temple loyalist Larry Layton, got to remember that name, the brother of Deborah Layton, demanded to join the group. He wants to defect too. All right? So several people say, I don't think we trust him. Well, shortly after the dump truck initially departed, Temple member Don Sly grabbed Ryan while wielding a knife. They got him, but they decided now was the time to leave.
Yeah. It's like, let's get out of here.
So the truck departing to the airstrip had stopped after the passengers heard of the attack on Ryan and took him as a passenger. So they originally had scheduled a 19-passenger Twin Otter from Guyana Airways to fly him back to Georgetown. But now an additional aircraft was required. So they arranged for a second plane, a 6-passenger Cessna. So they all got to the airstrip about 4:45. No planes. They had to wait for the aircraft until 5:10, and then they started boarding.
Well, but there was a suspenseful wait.
I cannot
Longest
imagine.
30 minutes of your
Yeah.
life.
Besides that 45 minutes of drinking that cyanide. Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about it too, because now he's already been attacked at knife point, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're sitting there going, okay, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, he's like, it probably was a good idea to be leery of these folks.
Larry Layton was a passenger on the Cessna, and that was the first aircraft ready to take off. They taxied to the far end of the airstrip, and he produced a handgun and started shooting at the passenger.
Dang.
He wounded the defectors, tried to kill Dale Parks, who disarmed him after the gun misfired.
You go, Dale.
Yeah.
So then other passengers got on the Twin Otter. A tractor with a trailer attached, driven by members of the Temple's Red Brigade security squad, arrived at the airstrip, approached the aircraft. The tractor got about 30 feet away, right around the time when he was shooting up the Cessna, and they opened fire with handguns, shotguns, and rifles, while at least 2 shooters circled the plane on foot. So
Just a dang shootout.
yeah, they named 9 of these shooters. They're mentioned earlier on. So Jones had instructed Larry Layton, as well as those aboard the tractor, to ensure that none of the members of Ryan's party nor the defectors were to leave Jonestown alive.
Wow.
The first little bit of the shooting was captured by the cameraman, the NBC cameraman, but he was killed. Ryan was killed after being shot more than 20 times.
Dang.
Yeah. The cameraman, all the reporters, there were a few that survived. Actually, 9 survived. They were injured, but they survived.
Did they, I'm assuming they stopped the plane and they got in and shot them up in the plane?
Apparently, they hadn't quite got on yet.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and that's what I saw from the little bit of footage, that they were all just sort of standing around. The Cessna was already boarded and was ready to take off.
And that's the one where the dude shot with the handgun.
And so what happened then was, there are dead bodies all over the ground. Well, the ones who could still move went to the Cessna and it took off.
Gotcha.
And the weird thing about it is, before leaving Jonestown for the airstrip, Ryan had told them that he would issue an official government report that would describe Jonestown in basically good terms. He said none of the 60 relatives he had targeted for interviews wanted to leave. The 14 defectors constituted a very small portion of the residents, and that any sense of imprisonment the defectors had was likely because of peer pressure and a lack of physical transportation. And even if 200 of the 900 wanted to leave, I'd still say you have a beautiful place here.
I was going to say 14 out of 900. That is a minority,
Yeah.
So basically, Jones's own paranoia is what sent this thing skyrocketing.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. After his report, Jones just said, I have failed. And then this guy said, no, but the report's going to be positive. And he says, all is lost. So after the Cessna left, with all the dead bodies still on the tarmac, Marceline makes a broadcast on Jonestown's speaker system, gives everybody assurances, and tells them to return to their home. During this time, aides prepare a large metal tub with grape, not Kool-Aid, Flavor Ade. I know. Everybody says it's Kool-Aid, but it's not. It's Flavor Ade.
Wouldn't pay the nickel more.
Poisoned with diphenhydramine, promethazine, chlorpromazine, chloroquine, diazepam, chlorohydrate, and cyanide.
Oh, they really wanted you to die.
Yeah, and here's the deal, too. You're thinking, how did they get all this stuff here? He applied for a jeweler's license and
to
received
clean the
one,
metal.
and he got the cyanide so he could clean gold with it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, that's what's crazy is the cyanide alone would have done it.
They wanted to make sure. They were like, we're not doing this 45-minute thing.
I was going to say, I don't know if we got enough cyanide for 900.
Yeah.
But get this. The concoction was prepared with the help of Jonestown's in-house doctor, Larry Schacht, a former methamphetamine addict who got sober with the help of Jones, who subsequently paid for his college education to become a doctor. His research project for the whole year had been researching the best ways for a person to die in advance of the foreseen mass suicide.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
So about 30 minutes after Marceline's announcement, Jones made his own announcement calling all members immediately to the pavilion. A 44-minute cassette tape known as the Death Tape records part of the meeting Jones called inside the pavilion in the early evening of November 18th. And you can listen to that on YouTube, and it is bone-chilling. I mean,
I'm good.
It is crazy. So he told them when they gathered, he says, one of those people on that plane is going to shoot the pilot. I know that. I didn't plan it, but I know it's going to happen. They're going to shoot that pilot, and down comes the plane into the jungle, and we had better not have any of our children left when it's over because they'll parachute in here on us. And so he says, you need to commit revolutionary suicide. He says, the theory is you can go down in history saying you chose your own way to go, and it is your commitment to refuse capitalism and in support of socialism.
Well, that dude, he was really drinking the Kool-Aid, man. I mean,
The Flavor Ade.
yes. Like, dang.
Yep. And apparently one of the members said, hey, why don't we just airlift to the Soviet Union? And he says, let's make it a beautiful day. We'll all be reincarnated later anyway. Now, where did he come up with that?
Reincarnation?
Yeah, all of a sudden he's reincarnation.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. So,
Come back as Stalin's boot.
yeah. There's,
Which Stalin was dead at this point, but
yeah. So, according to escaped temple member Odell Rhodes, the first to take the poison were Rouletta Paul and her 1-year-old infant. A syringe without a needle fitted was used to squirt poison into the infant's mouth, after which Paul squirted another syringe into her own mouth. Stanley Clayton also witnessed mothers with their babies first approach the tub containing the poison. Jones approached people to encourage them to drink the poison, and after adults saw the poison begin to take effect, they showed a reluctance to die.
Oh, so they were seeing it pretty quickly.
It says within 5 minutes for children, less for babies, and an estimated 20 to 30 minutes for adults. After they consumed the poison, they were escorted away down a wooden walkway leading outside the pavilion. It is not clear if some thought it was another White Night rehearsal. In response to reactions of seeing the poison take effect, Jones said, die with a degree of dignity. Lay down your life with dignity. Don't lay down with tears and agony. He says, I tell you, I don't care how many screams you hear. I don't care how many anguished cries. Death is 1,000,000 times preferable to 10 more days of this life. If you knew what was ahead of you, you'd be glad to be stepping over tonight. Yeah, he said most of them walked around like they were in a trance.
yeah.
It's suggested by one of the survivors that the day's lunch of grilled cheese sandwiches was probably tainted with sedatives. You can hear cries and screams of children and adults audibly on the death tape, so on and so forth. And you know who didn't die by poison?
Jones.
Yeah.
Did he shoot himself?
Yes, he shot himself.
Oh, he took the old Bullet Express.
Yep.
But now it was not immediately then, was it? Or did he kill himself right then?
As soon as everything was pretty much over
Kapow.
and most of the bodies were down, he went into his own little chamber with 2 other people, and they all shot themselves. His head was cushioned by a pillow. How about that?
And that's dignity.
So I just listen to this though, and this is there was a bunch of aftermath and cleanup, and the People's Temple was dissolved a couple of years later. There were a few people to try to keep it alive in San Francisco and all that kind of stuff. But here's where oh wow, I didn't know that. Here's what I wanted to finish with though. These are Notes from deceased residents. Here is a note found near Marceline Jones' body. It's a typewritten note, signed by Marceline, witnessed by 2 other people. She says, I, Marceline Jones, leave all bank assets in my name to the Communist Party of the USSR. The above bank accounts are located in the Bank of Nova Scotia in Nassau, Bahamas. Offshore bank account.
All right.
Please be sure that these assets do get to the USSR. I especially request that none of these are allowed to get into the hands of my adopted daughter, Suzanne Jones Cartmel. For anyone who finds this letter, please honor this request as it is most important to myself and my husband, James W. Jones.
The U.S. government was like, yeah, right, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another note says, I am at a point right now so embittered against the world that I don't know why I'm writing this. Someone who finds it will believe I am crazy or believe in the barbed wire that does not exist in Jonestown. And the last line says, we died because you would not let us live in peace.
But they really did, though.
Well, I guess.
Because the dude was going to...
We died because we're stupid.
The dude was going to go back and say everything was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That. Yeah, she says, she writes, Jonestown, the most peaceful, loving community that ever existed.
That's debatable.
Yeah. She also writes in another part of this long letter, she says, Jim Jones, the one who made this paradise possible, much to the contrary of the lies stated about Jim Jones being a power-hungry, sadistic, mean person who thought he was God of all things. And his hatred of racism, sexism, elitism, and mainly classism is what prompted him to make a new world for the people, a paradise in the jungle. The children loved it. So did everyone else.
All right.
Yeah. And then Carolyn Layton, a handwritten note. She says, this is my last will and testament. I hereby leave all assets in any bank account to which I am a signatory to the Communist Party of the USSR.
That's wild. That's what they were so enthralled by, was the Communist Party. And
yeah, and you can go on about all kinds of other stuff that, there were people that escaped into the jungle that almost died, and they recovered them. Some of them were teenagers. It was just absolutely crazy.
so, Pat, is it a cult or not?
Well, I've been thinking about it. It's a cult all the way around, man. Man, it's really just sad, though, man. 900 people, dude, and over a third of them were women.
Yeah.
278 children.
Yeah, that's, man.
Yeah, a third of them were children.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. And then, like I said, over half of them were African-American women. That's just genocide on a level that's unbelievable. That's short of a war. That is just ungodly number of deaths. And then even in their dying moments to write these letters and things I would say success at brainwashing. That is by far the most successful we've seen.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, when a guy is trying to give his children to somebody to take them to the U.S. and his wife's trying to stop him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is the
mother, I mean, and it's kind of crazy that it's the roles that they are. Because the mother is going to have that motherly instinct. So, man.
No, Jim Jones just beat that right out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think, Logan?
Man, it's just crazy. It's even crazier than I thought. Like, I'd always heard the don't drink the Kool-Aid thing.
I know.
But I'd honestly never looked really deeply into the story of it. And I didn't know about, the congressman and all them going over there. Yeah, man, it's just wild. It's wild. And it's wild how long his time spanned. Like, I always just kind of figured he blew up out of nowhere.
I know.
But it's like, nah, this dude was speaking crap for a long time.
1954 to 1978.
I want to know how you get your hands on enough drugs to put people on a Thorazine drip and sodium pentothal, and then put sedatives in their meals, and then poison this large vat for 900 people. Like, how do you get your hands on that much?
And I want to know why you spend more, if you're communist, why you spend more money on cyanide than you do on wheat.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't even afford real Kool-Aid.
Exactly. You got to use Flavor Ade.
Yeah. Flavor Ade. Yeah.
And this the weird thing, you somewhere you got a warehouse. on the compound
with Flavor Ade and all this cyanide and all these drugs.
And you employed a doctor to
and what a fine doctor.
And then you got a congressman come in and be like, "Yep, all ship shape.
Yeah, everything's gonna be okay."
Yeah.
And you flip your lid.
Yeah.
The thing that really blows my mind in this whole thing. Now, I just sort of assumed that this was Christian-ish. You know, that is somebody just, like some of these others, like coerce, I mean, he definitely was trying to be, trying to base things sort of loosely.
They used the Bible and things.
This guy said the Bible was this black book.
He used the Bible until it didn't benefit him anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, we're not even going to talk about Jesus. We're not going to talk about the second coming. We're not going to talk about any of this stuff. We're just going to talk about communism.
Yeah, and then he said this Kool-Aid and bullet will be reincarnated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there were people, there were some of the guards that were shooting the people that wouldn't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So did the guards go drink it after?
I don't know. See, you may never know.
Yeah.
Because
if you're the one holding the gun, you'd probably be like, "Screw that."
I mean, when you hear the gun go off in the inner chamber, you're going, "I'm kind of a free agent now."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. At that point, I'd be like, "Hey, I might take my chances."
Yeah.
There's another plane sitting on it.
Hey, more of them trucks laying around.
I got a tractor.
Yeah.
Check Jim Jones' pocket for change.
This made me think on our Mason one. We were so torn on whether or not it was a cult or not, and I think I know now where I would fall. I don't think it's a cult because there was no sex involved.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
I don't know. And while I was researching this today, German Freemasons have a direct. This is not conspiracy theory. This is historical fact. German Freemasons have a direct tie to Nazis.
Wow.
Interesting. But are they having sex in a cult-like fashion? Because if they're not, they might be all right.
Not with the Jews.
I mean, you don't know what they do in their meetings.
That's true. So I guess it still remains a mystery.
Sorry, Invisible Man in Black. We didn't really mean it.
Yeah. I still think Alex Jones is one of you, though.
Yeah. Jury's still out on that.
But man, no, that's crazy.
So what I want you to do right now is I want you to go on Spotify and put in the happiest playlist you can find. And just listen to that for about 15, 20 minutes to kind of lift your spirits a little bit.
Man, you got
this
to.
Is a dark.
The way that one
thing
ends.
You put in your Flavor Ade is sugar.
Yeah, please. I don't even know
ice.
Did Flavor Ade go out of business?
I feel like that would be a pretty bad blow to their business.
No, it's still there. It's still around.
Is
it?
Yeah.
Wow. Do they use that in their advertising? 900 people.
So good it'll kill you.
If that would be the last thing I would want to drink.
Yeah, the flavor that kills.
Oh, no. See, you just have to make a few jokes just to lighten the mood just a little bit.
You got to.
I think y'all need. What was the donkey song? The Christmas donkey song?
Dominic the donkey.
Yeah, Dominic the donkey.
Listen to that. Yeah.
Lift your spirits.
Yeah. Just don't drink.
Don't drink. Hey, this is the liquid death. This one's okay to drink because this is not literal death.
That's right.
Yeah, but don't be drinking no cyanide.
But
cyanide, whatever.
Cyanide.
Just go to regular church this Sunday, okay?
That's my thing, guys. Quit looking for this crazy stuff. Like, just be a normal person. Go to a normal church. Like, if people would quit going to this extreme crazy crap, then we wouldn't have all this.
You know what? You want to keep going against the grain enough, you might find yourself holding a cup of Flavor Ade.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yes.
All right, so there you go. That's kind of the end of our cult series for now. We may pick it up again some other time.
That was a fun series.
Man.
It was wild though.
It was.
It was wild trip.
So next week we're going to dive back into Revelation Part 2.
All right.
So we're going to talk about this Jesus guy now?
Yeah. No, we're going to talk about Apache helicopters.
That's right.
There you go.
Right.
Scorpions and stuff like that.
That's it.
Yeah, we're going to get into the juicy parts of Revelation this time around. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be probably like 8 weeks of Revelation, and then we'll launch off into something else.
Sounds good.
Maybe this snow will be gone by then.
Maybe. Awesome. Well, guys, y'all know what to do. We want you to leave us some comments. Let us know what you thought of the episode. I feel like we got good feedback on the last episode.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did.
We want to get that feedback, and I haven't checked our ratings in a while.
I know. We need them.
We need them. We
Yep.
definitely need them.
Ratings and reviews.
Yep. This year we need to. I think we could safely. I think we need to like triple our ratings and
I think we
reviews.
could.
Yeah.
That's
I
an
think we
easy
could.
goal.
Yep. Yep. We got a lot of things up our sleeve coming up. So
Yep.
y'all jump on board. Come with us.
Do it. All right, guys. Catch you next week.